it's a fantastic role to play, and it's an iconic role, and like I said, you know, being from England, you are constantly surrounded by the myth and the legend. And my parents live just outside of Winchester, which is where Arthur is supposedly to have been buried, and the Round Table could have been. And then we used to travel to Cornwall every year, and on the way you pass a place called Tintagel, which is where Castle Pendragon could have been. So you're constantly surrounded by this myth, and then, you know, being able and being offered the role of this figure that you know so well in your head I feel so honoured and really very blessed to be able to do that, but also to bring my own take on it and bring a sort of reality to the role as well. That was more exciting for me, I think, than anything else, because we've seen so much in the past of finding this, you know, king as already you know, instated in his role, already a man, already big and brutish and a warrior. But you've got to understand that if this character did exist, because there's no historical fact that he did exist, but if he did, he would have been a boy at some point. He would have had to grow up, and how did he grow up, and what shaped him into the man that people know so well in their heads? And that's what really drew me to this story particularly. I think the progression of every character is something that I find fascinating. From episode 1 to episode 10, people change. They go through so much, whether it be Arthur, whether it be his brother Kay, you know, Guinevere, Leontes, all these characters just grow and mature, and I don't think I've seen that in a 10-part television series before, and that's really, I think, a very, very key point for our show, is that the people that you see in episode 1 are not the same emotional people that you're going to see in episode 10. So we had a month of boot camp where we're on the lawn every day, we're training, we've got swords, we're with the stunt guys, and then we'd go and horse ride, and that was really fun. You know, it gave us an opportunity as a group and as a mass body of people to be able to connect with each other before we had to start shooting, because there's nothing worse than going in, you know, on your first day, you've met the guy that's playing your brother maybe 3 days before, you're like, hi, I'm Jamie, oh, hi, I'm Peter, okay, action, you're like, how am I meant to have a connection with this person, like, that's going to be realistic? So that was great. There was a lot of physical work, particularly in episode 2. The character has to climb, Arthur has to climb a waterfall, and that was great fun. Like, all that kind of stuff I really love. It's like being 12 years old again. I mean, it's boys with toys, and we just had such a blast doing it. Yes, we got hurt, yes, you know, it was literally blood, sweat and tears, but that's part of the joy of it, because if you don't go home at the end of the day feeling like maybe you have exerted yourself or challenged yourself in some way, then you're just going to go home feeling like, Well, we get to see, like I said, we get to see the maturity, particularly of Arthur, from sort of, you know, older teenager to a king, or to the beginnings of what people now have in their mind as who he might be. We get to see the Sword and the Stone, we get to see Lady in the Lake, we get to see the beginnings of a Round Table, but kind of unlike anything you've seen before.
So we have all these iconic notions of Camelot, Sword and the Stone, Lady in the Lake, and those are just a few of this huge wealth that only something like cable TV could take on. So we're really doing like 10 short films for the first year, which touch on all the great narratives out of a wealth, a Bible of work by Mallory. True, he's hugely influential, especially in a lot of the Celtic mythologies around Britain. And there's many different interpretations and notions of who Merlin is. I guess, rather like the production, I didn't want to get involved in an off-the-peg production. I didn't want to get involved in doing the usual Merlin, which is, I see it, a man with a long beard, pointy hat, long hair, staff, and a bit prophetic, which is a valid interpretation. And the more I looked into the background of Merlin, the more I came to the idea that he was full of duality, that he really was a cross between Donald Rumsfeld and Obi-Wan Kenobi, that he had this darkness and light, that he was not to be trusted. And so what I loved, and my that even when he's putting Arthur, a young boy, to become king, he's ripping a baby out of his mother's arms, and he's secretly going to puppeteer this boy into a seat of power later on in 20 years. But who's to say he might have another 40 other types of Arthurs in the wings, just in case this Arthur doesn't work out. So he's Machiavellian in that sense. He's ancient. One could say he's lived for hundreds of years, and you can play with that. Hell, he uses magic. That's pretty cool. I don't remember sitting down with Eva per se and talking about magic, but certainly with Chris and with regards to Merlin, that Merlin comes from the pagan background, and there's this weird newfangled religion called Christianity, which is coming into the front and is pushing the pagans away. So much so that the horned symbol has been made into a devil. In pagan times, that would be the god. So they've completely hijacked all the sort of iconic images, and they've flipped them on their side. So Merlin's dealing with this whole new concept. But the pagan, I would have thought, the sort of teachings would be far more in tune with Earth, Mother Nature, the stars, astrology, the wind, the earth. So it was temporal. It was far more kind of organic, their magic. It was less kind of pulling out a Harry Potter wand, but it was far more summoning the powers of the earth, and maybe in a sort of David Blaine kind of way, a bit of neuro-linguistic programming thrown in as well. It's sort of hijacking people's minds and suspicions. But I always felt really the true magic for Merlin lay in the corridors of power, that he was a great manipulator of personalities. It's filmed outside of Dublin, in County Wicklow, County Dublin, and the mountains there are just tremendous, and the whole Celtic sense or Arthurian landscape is vividly in front of you. So an actor, that's great, because you're stimulated 100% by your visuals, and so the horse and the mountains and the searing cold wind and the mud, and so you don't really have to conjure your imagination to sort of to sense where you are and to invent where you are. It's all there, and it's beautifully shot, and it really is. It's very cinematic. And
I mean, they sent me 2 scripts of Camelot, and I really loved the role. I thought it was really cool. She was very ballsy, and you don't have many female characters like that in cinema or TV. And I had a long conversation with the showrunner, Chris Chibnall, who convinced me to do it. What's great is that you have a very strong relationship with the showrunner all the way through. So if you disagree on something, on a scene, he will go, okay, what do you think about that? You write together a bit, which never happened to me before, and it's fantastic. And I mean, this character, Morgan, is so great. You know, she's mysterious, she is very brave, very political, she's sexy, but she's also very, very vulnerable, very raw. And I like that very much. I don't see her as just an evil person. She's many, many things, and a gift for an actor. I mean, the thing about Morgan is that she's the most enigmatic character in the whole myth. You know, she's been described as evil, as a saint, as ugly, as beautiful. And there's one book in particular by a French guy called Dozier, Morgan Le Fay, and she's described as a saint, and she wants to do great things for her people. She believes in equality between men and women. She believes in the pagan ways that celebrate life, sexuality, nature. And I think Morgan wants the throne, you know, because she wants the throne. She's been denied the throne because she's a woman, but also because she wants to do great things for her people. She's a very modern character, very much like a Joan of Arc. My character is great. It's fun to play my character. The rhythm is completely mad. It's TV, and you know, you have to be really quick. You have to trust your instinct. I'm usually very cerebral and I think too much. So here you have no choice. You just jump, which was a lesson. It was very interesting. But yeah, it was very intense. It gets more and more intense, actually, for my character. Episode 4, she gets very ill because she's using magic too much. She's like on drugs. She's sweating blood, and she's going really crazy. It was fun, and then she's a warrior queen, and it's very physical. It's very intense, very theatrical too. I talk to the crowd. I have long speeches, and I felt like I was going back on stage, which was a real challenge. Yeah. What is good, I think, in these 10 episodes is that you start with a very tough, guarded Morgan, and little by little you discover the other side, the little girl, which is very interesting. And I know that in the myth, Morgan has a child, Mordred, with Arthur. So I would love to have a child. That would be it's a very ambiguous relationship, and that could be very interesting.